I'm back with Seppel. Okay, alright. So I'm getting Seppel ready. Seppel is very anti-fad. I am anti-fad. Yes, you better believe it. Okay, so I need a little bit white. A little white on the eyes. See, when we are children, we think that the other children in the school class must know what they're talking about because it's a pattern, that we grow up with. The pattern is we don't question anyone. We're also told not to question anyone or anything by the neurotic humans. And those growing up with religions, which are most people, they experience this in even more intensity. They're actually told not to question anything or anyone. And in my family, it was looked down on to question. Like, one is a party spoiler, questioning things and trying to be, some kind of emancipated person. That was also a word back in the 70s and 80s when some people became activists. In Germany, quite a number of people became activists. That in itself then became a fad. And when something becomes a fad, then any kind of hater of that kind of behavior will immediately say, oh, see, this is just a fad. And with that, they want to debunk all activism. And these kind of things, these dynamics happen. And it's always makes things very, very difficult, actually. Very difficult. And then people become confused. They don't know which is which and who means it and who doesn't. But that's not what we should be looking at. That's not the criterion to figure out whom we can trust with things. What we have to go by is that person ethical? Is that an ethical choice? Sometimes it can be a fad. For example, with the women's rights movement. Also in Germany, a lot of those people, they called them the alternatives, the alternative movement. I just thought that was all cool. I was right on board when I was 13. Hey, let's go do a demonstration on the street, yay. There was my favorite girlfriend. She was a couple years older than me, like 3 or 4 years older than me, and she was already engaged in all of this. She had all of her friends were hippies, and I was like, yay, I love her. I want to be like her. I want to be part of that. You know, it as long, it doesn't matter if it's something that you want to be part of, or maybe you do it as a fad. When we're children, we tend to do things as a fad. But what matters is that shouldn't be criticized so much. When it's something good, when it is a good fad, that brings awareness in general to a certain movement. Why are they doing this? What originated this? Who are the actual shakers and movers behind it, and what did they have to say? So that brings attention to that. Whether someone jumps on the bandwagon for a different reason or not, what matters is that we are together doing something that moves that thing forward. If it is out of faddish motives for some people, then so be it. It still brings that thing forward. So, but in general, it is good to study. Where does this come from? What is the motive? What were they thinking? What was their struggle all about? Was the original shakers and movers. Let's understand them. Let's find out, what do they want to achieve, and how can I help in this? How can I help to bring this forward? For example, in the animal rights movement, some people might do this as a fad. I've seen it already. It happens very quickly. But don't get so caught up with that. What matters is that those people who use it as a fad, and also the other ones who are quick to criticize them or anyone, they should study this in depth. They should really find out, what is this about? Why are they doing this? Okay, and what's the science behind it? Very important. A lot of people, they want nothing to do with science. That's very dangerous. Comes from religion. Very dangerous to be standing against science. The science is all we have as in terms of investigating something, in terms of finding out. That's all science is trying to find out, trying to look into the truth of things. That's what science is. It's not some kind of conspiracy or something. So look at the truth of things. That's what matters. Okay, the eye is coming along. It's a very nice green color in there. Okay, let's find out. So the science behind animal rights is that, and it didn't even require a scientific proof or anything, but the scientists got together in 2012 and did an official declaration on consciousness for anyone who's still in the dark ages, right? So, and they, together with Stephen Hawking, was there, who was fully on board with that. Okay, was happy that this was happening. Stephen Hawking was a very caring person, and they all these different neuroscientists together declared from a worldwide panel. They declared in Cambridge, UK, that all animals, all mammals, first of all, and many other types, have sentience, have emotions, have feelings, have instincts. We have humans, okay, same instincts we have as the animals, okay, works with the same principle the animals have. According to species, many of them have higher skills with detecting things. Okay, it has to do with evolution, of course, and much higher sense of smell and also intuition, psychic abilities. But they weren't talking about psychic, but I'm adding that to it. So I see it. See, animals have much more psychic abilities than humans. So they declared that we all have the same sentience. We all have the same capacity to feel joy, grief, pain, and so on. The same suffering intensity, joy intensity, the same perception, the same peripheral and internal stimuli perception. Okay, so, and the corporate agenda doesn't want to hear about this. They don't want people to hear about it because the corporate agenda wants to continue to exploit animals, and it becomes increasingly difficult to do this when the public learns that the animals are exactly like we are with the perception of pain and stimuli and all of this. So then it becomes more difficult because then people will say, wait a minute, if he, the pig, if he feels the same pain as I do, then how dare you put him into a small cage and cram him in with other animals together and make his life miserable and rape him and all of these things that they're doing with the pig. They're raping male pigs. It's the people in there. It's awful bad to get the sperm, and they don't even let them have normal reproduction. It's all to save money, to save time and money and all of this, to prevent them from fighting or biting each other because they're completely stressed out. They don't look at the causes for the stress. Instead, they give antibiotics. And it's just the list goes on and on and on. It's just so incredibly awful. There's no insight into what's going on. So they only want the quick fixes. Oops, tablet fell. Sorry about that. They want the quick fixes to... I'm gonna put this in here. They want the quick fixes so that they can save a few dollars here and there. That's all it is. They don't see at the bigger pic. They don't look at the bigger picture of it. They don't see what it causes, the suffering that it causes, and it even would save them money if they would look at the bigger picture. But they can't see the bigger picture, so that's why they can't understand it. That if they were ethical, they would actually save money down the line. But they don't think that far. They only think in terms of right now. How can they skip some costs on cost of the animals? And so that's why, that's why they have their fingers in with religion, because they use religion. They use the archaic religions and the archaic scriptures where people had no knowledge about anything. And they keep people uninformed in that way so that people won't ask any questions that are uncomfortable and people don't say, wait a minute, what are you doing to this pig? What are you doing to this sentient being who is just like me in every respect, feels the same stimuli, the same pain and everything? How can you do this? Well, that's why that's why I will petition for the rest of my life to get politicians to sign a bill that gives animals personhood rights. I'll do this for the rest of my life. Even if I'm completely alone with this, even if no one would get on board, I will do it. I got about, I don't know, I got a minimal amount of signatures, like 60 signatures, and needed to reach thousands, 10,000 signatures would be necessary to even get a politician to look at this. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's all very difficult. Activism is very difficult. Extremely difficult. I just accidentally painted a heart onto the eye. A very small heart, and it's like the pupil of Seppel has a heart in it now, if you can see it. That happened accidentally. I have hearts on my eyes, and that's also what happens to me on a daily basis. I spill liquid and it forms itself into a heart. Happens all the time. It's not a coincidence. I spill something falls, it shapes itself into a heart. All the time, all day long. And to me, that is a sign of infinite love. That's the sign that the blue God, the infinite cosmos, is on my side and says, yes, 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 you're right. Yes, it's true. Yeah, the paint is kind of grainy. I don't know why. Oh, that's okay. I'll let this dry. So I have to give Seppel a break. I'll put this over here. So the most important thing for us is we need to question things. Question authorities. Usually people who are in authoritative leverage positions, they usually got in there because they have a motive, right? They want to get in there for their own purpose, for their own advantage reasons. So that right there you need to question that. Who gets into those positions? Why does someone want to become a police officer? My husband, who has met many of those because he used to work as a Bel patrol officer. He also had his own burglar alarm company. He has met a lot of officers. He's talked to a lot of those people through his profession. And many of them admitted that they just wanted to kick ass. So right there, they wanted to have some power over other people, not for the right reasons. So question people, question everyone. Well, so once in a while there's a police officer who's doing this to help the animals, or to help people. But I don't know. That's not the majority. I don't know the exact percentage of people with whatever motives, but there seem to be a very large amount of people who get into certain positions for the wrong reasons. Okay, right there we need to question it. And also artwork doesn't have to be like exactly like this or like this or like that. Artwork is totally up to you. How you want to do artwork. You can do just random, belly flow art, without, that's more in the flow and not so meticulous like I am. You don't have to be so meticulous. You can be if you want to, but this is not a rule for art. Okay? So you do your art however you want it, however you want to do it. Make sure you don't do it because some society or some peer group likes it that way, or thinks that is cool and that is not cool. So you do it out of your own wish, personal wish, your own personal preferences for what feels good to you. That's what's important. To do art, to make art, is very, very therapeutic. It's very healing. But that's not the main reason why we do it. We do it to serve art, to serve the infinite, to do what speaks to us, to make that what you envision, what feels right, what feels good, not what comes out of some kind of, not out of a mental illness or religion or guilt things, or no, none of that. You do this because you are compelled to do it, because it feels like you have to do it, like because it feels so incredibly good. Yeah, that's what I mean. Because it feels so good when you look at it, when you make it. psychic instinct. That's what it is. That's what art is. Don't have to copy anyone. You can be inspired by someone, but make your own thing. Even if you copy someone at first, let it grow into its own thing. I have these two types of contours. I have the sharp-edged contours, like those, and I have the fading out contours, like these. That's just how I work, but that's not a rule. That's just how I like to work. I like the way that looks. It has a very clean look, very architectural type of look. Fractal almost. There is a fractal, I think I mentioned that before, by Georg Cantor, who was originally from Russia, and another Russian or Eastern European master brain. There are very many that came from the Eastern European countries, very many amazing brains. But he, towards the end of his life, he lived in Berlin, Germany, worked there. And Georg Cantor lived around I think he was born in 1880. So he was a contemporary to Friedrich Nietzsche, just a generation younger. And I don't know if he ever met Friedrich Nietzsche, would be interesting to know. But Georg Cantor, he developed a mathematical monster. And that mathematical monster, when I saw that, my hair stood up on end, because it reminded me of my own artwork, of these contours, and particularly, that's the key here, the eye. This eye that you see recurring in all of my works suddenly appears, like in the very beginning of the calculation of the mathematical monster by Georg Cantor. And this is how it works. It's very easy and very simple to explain. It is I'm not into math, I'm not into geometry, never was, never interested me. But I understand it, I'm coming at it from a philosophical viewpoint, which suddenly opens that world up to me, because I'm coming through a side door into it. And I never had very good math teacher that brought this to me with an enthusiasm, as Georg Cantor would have done. But he was before my time, of course. But there are great math professors today, but I never lucked out with that. But, my brain is not in that direction. It's not geared towards that direction. My interest is not so much geared in this. But I meet math where I come in through philosophy, and infinite and math does meet philosophy, many, many times throughout history and throughout its multifaceted field. And so this is because I have done so much thinking on infinity myself. It already started as a child that I was thinking about infinity, and that's quite rare. This is I haven't met very many people who reported that they were thinking about infinity at age 4. So it's quite something. But it wasn't in terms of me being a prodigy. I wasn't. It had to do with my emotional pain. I sat in front of my rough structured wall, with a rough structured wallpaper that had these so-called random patterns in it, but there's no randomness. And I saw faces in it, and they were speaking to me. Some people would think that's schizophrenia, but then again, what is schizophrenia? Is that just mental illness, or is it more? So there are no beginnings and no ends. It all fades over into one another. It's a very blurry situation, okay? Particularly when it comes to mental illness, and where does mental illness end and where does the genius begin, and vice versa. So as a child, I looked at these patterns in the wall, and I said to myself, this is really horrible. It's just horrible. I felt horrible. I also thought that I was garbage. And only a child who was abused will have such monstrous emotions. Only an abused child. If a child wasn't abused, the girl or whoever, boy or animal, would never feel such monstrous, horrific pain. Just thinking about it just makes me feel very insecure again. And when I get insecure, I become very self-conscious in the way I word myself. I immediately see it happening. So, yeah. And then I start to obsess on what are people going to interpret into me saying this or this or this or this, and I need to stop that. Okay, may they interpret whatever they want to interpret. If the audience, if you guys have any questions, it would be a good idea, instead of interpreting something into me and then silently coming to a judgment, why don't you ask me a question instead? You can ask me, were you thinking this or that? Or were you bragging? Or were you doing this? Or what are you doing? Or why are you acting like this or like that? And I will explain as good as I can. Or what do you mean by this? Or what do you mean by that? Or what do you mean by random or non-random? Or randomness not existing? Ask questions, it's like, that's how we move forward, by asking questions. That is the only way we move forward. Otherwise, we cannot move forward. We will be stuck in ruts and in wars and in conflicts and bad situations and misunderstandings and so on. The only way we can move forward is by asking tons and tons and tons of questions and putting these puzzle pieces together. That's how we move forward. And by revising and by being open to revise things all the time. That's how we move forward. And that goes into infinity. But it is the right track we need to go on first. That's the most important thing. Most people are not on the right track. They're on some kind of side tracks and twirl and loop tracks. They loop around themselves with the same neurosis. We need to get out of those loops. We need to start asking questions. And that starts by not listening to those who say to you not to ask questions. You don't listen to them. You defy that. You negate them. You throw them out. You recycle that what they say. It has no meaning. They are coming from their neurosis and their religion and their fear. Fear can be recycled by asking questions. Why stay stuck, like I said yesterday? Why stay stuck in the dungeon room and in your self-dug prison? Why? If there's the blue sky and endlessness, and you can explore and you can experience joy. Joy comes with making artwork and exploring and asking infinitely many questions. That's the proliferation process. That's the growing process. That's the mental growing process, the physical growing process, and it's the soul growing process. We are energy, consist of energy. There is an alive energy in us. That is our essence, and that is the soul. It's an energy. And that energy feeds ourselves. That energy can also leave the body. It can take the body off like a spacesuit. I guess that many times before. It can also put the body into a hibernation state and have one tentacle in it and keep it going, keep it alive and healthy. But the soul can stretch. It can stretch infinitely out. So as one tentacle in the body, it can stretch out. It's what they call bilocation. And then your essence, your soul can venture out, and you can do astral travel, and you can, that can be practiced just like meditation, for example. Thomas Metzinger has been very intensively studying this field, reading his book, The Ego Tunnel. Very interesting, very, very fascinating book. Very fascinating. What fascinates me the most is what he writes about the leaving the out-of-body experiences, leaving the body. But it's, you're not completely leaving the body, because if you did, then you would take the body off like a space. But there's a tentacle still in it, of course, that keeps it healthy and deeply relaxed. And then you can, your soul energy can venture out and get out of the window and move up and above the crowns of the trees, and you can see everything from above. I haven't done it yet. I had some bizarre experiences that happened without me doing it. Some sleepwalking and stuff like this when I was a teenager. But I have never practiced out-of-body experiences. I'm also afraid of it. I'm afraid that it's a little bit playing with fire or something. That is a little bit on the dangerous side, because I want to be here for my papa dog, and what if I like it too much outside of my body? So I don't want to. And I also don't want to. I don't want to get anoxia and have brain damage or something like. I don't know what might happen if I do it wrong. So no, I won't be here for my papa dog. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm not going to take any risks with anything. Yes, papa dog. After papa dog, I'm going to get into all of that. But I have nothing to lose. So I live for my papa dog. Okay? My papa dog is the meaning of me being here. Okay, and then after papa dog comes my artwork. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But chances are high that I am probably not going to stick around after papa dog, because I don't know. I don't really see the point to stick around after papa dog. So it's existing for me is very rough, extremely rough. It's so rough that I cannot explain it in words. That's how rough it is. Last night, for example, trying to sleep, and the animal horror cases coming up into my brain, they just come up. It comes up, whether I want it to come up or not. No, it's totally out of my, it seems to be out of my legislation. The horror stuff comes up. And not just the cases, but other things come up. Then even my brain even fabricates monstrous things. It does that on its own. And I never seem to be able to quiet my mind into a cozy quietness. Okay, it just, and then I start feeling sorry for myself and think, this is quite some miserable existence. Yeah. And then the thought comes up, what would I need? And that's what Tony Robbins always asked people to do. He asked people to ask into the air the question, what would I need to not feel bad anymore? That's a very simplistic question, and it is such a key question to ask. What would I need to not be miserable, to not suffer? And the first answer that comes up, that is obviously always there, that I'm very aware of, that I have been aware of for a long time in my life, since teenage years. The answer is, we need physical touch. Okay, we need a mother hen to be there for us, whether it is our mothers or our surrogate mothers or our life partners or friends. It's good to have an animal. The thing is, with an animal, the animal is not my caregiver. I am the caregiver for my animal. So my animal is always my infant. the animal is always my child, no matter how old my animal gets. So I want to discern between the other beings, the other species, and the human species. So we need, or maybe there's an extraterrestrial with arms and legs and, you know, with a mega brain and some kind of, I heard some stories about these. What are their names? The Pleiadians. I don't know whether that's true or not, but you know, who knows? Maybe there are Pleiadians out there. Maybe they can. Maybe a Pleiadian can come here and different species, not even coming from the same evolutionary route, or maybe they did, or maybe somehow connected. I don't know, but whatever being could come there who takes care of me as a surrogate mother, then obviously then I can relax and be the pet to that surrogate mother, right? This is what's very critical, very important to discern right now for me and for others. You cannot use an animal as your surrogate mother. There have been animals who were surrogate mothers for human infants. Okay, that happened. That has happened. But once we humans are adults, we cannot use a different species from this planet as our surrogate mother. As, you know, we can't. We cannot in any way, because that would be exploiting, that would be making them work, and I'm against that. And they also, you know, just technologically it's not possible because they don't have that brain and they don't have the hands. So it requires a nanny brain and nanny hands to be there for you in that way, what I'm talking about. Non-sexual, nanny, surrogate mother type of touch and nursing and contact and being taken care of. So, being taken care of. And I have also a surrogate dad or the surrogate dad or the whatever gender. Surrogate mother, the surrogate mother could be the provider also. The surrogate dad could be the provider. The surrogate dad could also be the nurse.